Google just wrapped up their big keynote at I/O 2019 this week. Now, if you're unfamiliar, I/O is Google's annual developers conference, and as expected, there were major feature announcements for the Google Assistant, as well as a brand new Google Assistant device that was announced. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's dive in. And the first thing that I want to cover is the brand new Google Assistant device. Google at I/O just announced the Google Nest Hub Max. Now, if you first look at the Nest Hub Max and are like, Josh, isn't this just a larger Google Home Hub with a camera? Well, at first glance, yes, you're right. That is kind of what it is. But I want to go deeper into the device because there are significant changes that Google has made and upgrades that they've made to this device, as well as the name. I don't know if you caught it, but Google Nest Hub Max is a very different naming convention than what we've had previously with Google Home products. And that is because Google has now rebranded Google Home products to Google Nest products. So from here on out, any new product that Google makes as a smart home product will have the Google Nest branding with it. Now, existing devices like the Google Home Mini, Google Home, and Google Home Max, their names will not change for now. However, the Google Home Hub, that name has changed to Google Nest Hub, which makes sense. You have the Nest Hub Max, which is the larger version with the camera, and then you have the Nest Hub. So what's the big deal with the Google Nest Hub Max? Well, it does have a 10-inch screen. Now, we have seen a 10-inch screened Google Assistant display before. The Lenovo Smart Display comes in a 10-inch screen variant. Another thing that people have pointed out about the Nest Hub, formerly of course known as the Google Home Hub, is that the sound quality is just kind of meh. So what Google did with the Nest Hub Max is they have just cranked up the sound output that you're going to be able to get from this device. It has stereo sound to the front, so it's got two tweeters that face outward, and then it has a 3-inch woofer in the back. The camera on the Nest Hub Max seems to have two primary functions. The first one is for video calling with Google Duo. It has a 6-megapixel camera that is wide angle, which is great if you have a lot of people over. The second scenario that the camera makes it a differentiator is it's really going to act like a Nest security camera for your home. So let's say you're away, you put the Nest Hub Max in your living room, and you just want to check in and make sure the dog hasn't destroyed your living room. Well, you can just take out your phone, go into the Nest app, and then you can see the live camera feed coming from your Nest Home Max right there on your smartphone. Now, another feature that Google is doing with the camera that I thought was super interesting is the ability to pause and play media. And that's simply just by doing this. You can simply raise your hand, put your palm out, and the Nest Hub Max has image recognition and processing located locally on the device. It will notice that gesture and pause and play media. What else can the camera do on the Nest Hub Max? Well, it has facial recognition technology. Let's say it's in the morning, I'm getting ready, I go out to the living room and I look at the Nest Hub Max. The Nest Hub Max is going to go, oh hey, I see that's Josh. And I know Josh is probably heading to work based on his schedule. So let me display a card that shows how many minutes it's going to take me to get to work. Let me also show him a card of the weather and some other personalized things like what's on my calendar. It will do all that just by you looking at the display. Of course, all these features, while being great, having a product with a camera can make some people nervous. And Google, of course, knows this. So what they've done is they have a mute switch on the back that's very similar to the Nest Hub's mute switch. Now, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but those switches are actually physical switches. The switch actually disconnects the wiring to the microphone. So with the Nest Hub Max, when you switch that to mute, it is physically disconnecting the microphone and camera from the system. The Google Nest Hub Max will retail at $229 US and will become available later this summer. Now, its sibling, the device formerly known as the Google Home Hub, will now be rebranded to the Google Nest Hub, and that will now retail at a new lower price at $129 US, and the Google Nest Hub will also roll out to 12 additional countries. To look up those countries, you can see Google's blog post, and I'll make sure to link that below in the video description. Now that we've talked about the brand new Google Assistant device, let's switch and talk about the brains of all of our Google Assistant devices, and that is the Google Assistant. Google announced that they are now going to be able to bring the Google Assistant running on a local device so it does not have to interact with the network nearly as much as it currently does. Google has now been able to take all of that and put it in a 0.5 gigabit file that can run locally on a smartphone. And it's going to start with the brand new Google Pixels, not the ones that were just announced, but the ones that will be announced later this year, likely titled the Google Pixel 4 and Google Pixel 4 XL. Those devices will be the first ones to be able to run this, but I wanted to start with this because this is a huge technical achievement. Now, you're probably like, okay, that's great, great job, technical achievement. What does that mean for me? What it means for the user is the Google Assistant is going to get 10 times faster in its response times. Now, Google did a demo of this feature at I/O. I will link the video below in the description. It is worth taking a look at. It is jaw-dropping how fast this assistant is working on a Pixel phone. And hopefully over time, Google will be rolling this out to more devices. Now, another very welcomed feature that came out of I/O for the Google Assistant has to do with alarms and timers. There's a new way to stop alarms and timers, and all you have to do is just say stop. So what's going on here is starting today in the US with the English version of the Assistant, you can just say stop to stop a timer or an alarm. You no longer have to say the trigger word at all. What happens is when an alarm or timer goes off, Google will then start listening for you to tell it to stop. Another thing to come out of I/O is about Google Assistant Smart Displays. Now they'll be getting even smarter with a new feature called Picks for You. Picks for You is basically just a recommendation engine for certain areas of the Google Assistant Smart Display UI. So areas like podcasts, events, recipes, similar to the way that the YouTube recommended content engine works. So for the Google Assistant Smart Displays, this is mainly going to work with things like recipes. So we noticed you cooked this. We think you'll like cooking this next. Picks for You will launch on Google Assistant Smart Displays later this summer. Google also announced that a new mode will be coming to the Google Assistant on smartphones, which will be driving mode for the Google Assistant. With driving mode, what it does is it changes the UI slightly of the Google Assistant on smartphones for bigger buttons, easier to hit while you're driving, and it's going to have recommended contextual buttons that come up for things that it thinks you may want to know while you're driving. Driving mode for the Google Assistant is expected to roll out later this summer. Well, that's it for the main features that were announced for the Google Assistant at Google I/O, but before we wrap up, there are two additional things I want to talk about that are Google Assistant related. And the first one is an update to Google Duplex. If you remember from last year, Google Duplex is the technology that allows the Google Assistant to call a restaurant or a hair salon on your behalf to make a reservation or make an appointment. What Google has done now is they've looked at what are some other areas and problems that we can solve and make people's lives better with this technology. And what that ultimately came to is a new set of capabilities for Google Duplex called Google Duplex on the web. They've really honed in Google Duplex's focus on tasks. And these aren't just tasks that you can do with your voice like we've seen earlier with making a reservation. These are tasks like booking a car rental. This feature just has the potential to save you a ton of time. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before wrapping up is another Google Assistant related technology, and that is Google Lens. They have announced some really impressive features this time with Google Lens. And the first one I want to talk about, and they also did a demo of this, I'll link it below. You hold your smartphone with Google Lens selected at a sign in a foreign country. Google Lens will translate that sign into your local language so you can actually see it. It's like augmented reality. It'll actually translate it on the sign itself. And then it'll read out that translation for you in your local language. I mean, this is like something out of Star Trek. It is super impressive technology. Now, another thing that got people really excited during the I/O keynote that Google Lens could do is you can point your camera with Google Lens open at a receipt. Google Lens will then read the receipt and automatically calculate what your tip should be, and you can of course select what percentage tip that you need to tip, or let's say you're splitting the bill with people. It can automatically calculate that just by looking at the receipt. Super impressive technology, and I can't wait for it to roll out and try it myself. Well, that's it for the updates out of I/O 2019 for the Google Assistant. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in any of the topics we went over today, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment below letting us know what were you excited about at Google I/O and what were your main takeaways from the event. Well, thanks again for watching. For 6 months later, I'm Josh Tedder.